Hello and welcome to another Lightroom tutorial. Today I want to talk about how to restore atmosphere in an image. But what is meant with atmosphere? Well, atmosphere is both a visual and an emotional concept. Emotional through the mood and feeling. So what emotions an image transpire? It could be calm, it could be dramatic, melancholic, happy, and so on. Visual through light and weather mainly, but also color and tone, and also the depth of an image, which is largely shaped by its contrast. So, restoring or introducing atmosphere in an image means restoring or creating a certain feeling through visual changes. To start the editing process, I need to have an idea of the emotion or the story the image should tell, meaning I need a vision for that image. And once I have that, I know what I need to change to achieve that vision. But be aware that this is a very subjective concept and it really depends on you, what your vision is and what you feel like the image should look like. So for today's video, I choose this image and it is a fairly simple composition. So you might also have a similar image in your collection. So just grab it and follow along. What I mean with a similar image is basically I'm pointing the camera towards the sun. There are some objects blocking the sun or partly blocking the sun, and I have some deep shadows in the foreground and some illuminated sky in the background. And every time when I do an image like this, or I shoot an image like this, I make sure that I exposure stack that image, meaning that I'm doing 5 exposures or 5 images with different exposures, so overexposing, underexposing, and then I'm stitching them together in Lightroom. And this just gives me more freedom afterwards when editing the image to really push those sliders. So let's start with the editing process. I already created a snapshot, so we can go back to the original version of the image and have a look at all those changes. Right, now let's close that and let's start applying the lens corrections. So let's just remove chromatic aberration. I don't want to apply profile corrections. As often I like the vignetting effect and I also like the distortion. So it's fine by me. Yeah, transform maybe. All right, slight change in the rotation. Now let's go to the basic panel. And as this is an exposure stack, I really can push those sliders. So let's have a look at the image and see what we're working with. So let's just drop the highlights completely and lift the shadows. And now you can see all those details are revealed. We have some blown out highlights, but very minor and only in the brightest parts of the image. So all those highlights are recoverable. So dropping the exposure, you can really see there are just some tiny amounts of the image that are non-recoverable. So these white sections here, and the rest is recoverable. And also pushing the exposure, you can see all those details without introducing any noise or just a little noise, to be honest, into the image. All right. For the whites, I want to decrease the contrast because right now the contrast is very intense. And my vision for this image is to create a calm and peaceful image that also transpires an emotion of warmth. And yeah, for that, I want to decrease the whites. So decreasing the contrast and increasing some glow by or making the image more soft by bringing up the blacks. We can also change the texture a little bit, so increasing a little bit of sharpness and the mid-tone contrast with some clarity. All right, so this is before applying those changes and this is after. And as you can see, already a huge change to the image. It's already very close to the vision that I had. And yeah, thanks to having an exposure stack, this is possible. Now let's go to the masking. And first of all, I want to target the sky. So let's use a sky selection mask. Always check your selection, but in this case, it looks really good to me. So there are no overlaps with the foreground or the trees in this case. So it's a good selection. And now we can start applying our changes. So let's just go down to the texture, clarity, and dehaze. I want to increase the dehaze to reveal a little bit more of the structure in the clouds. I want to decrease the clarity. This helps with the vision of having a soft looking image. And this for the same reason, let's drop the textures to make the sky even softer. Okay, now I feel like I need to target the trees here. They are a little bit, yeah, overexposed maybe, so they need to be a little bit darker as they are basically silhouettes. So let's target them with a select objects mask somewhere around here. Yeah, this looks pretty good. But as you can see, Lightroom is also including the sky between the trees in the selection. So we need to get rid of the sky by subtracting a sky selection mask. And now we have a nice selection only targeting the trees. And here I want to, well, first reduce the blacks. So this helps with bringing down the luminance or brightness of the trees. And let's just also decrease the saturation a tiny bit, just to, yeah, I feel like they're a little bit too green, so let's just drop the saturation. Okay, now I want to have the same mask again actually. So let's duplicate this mask and reset our changes. And I want to target the upper part of the trees, which I feel need a little bit more of brightness to them. So let's subtract a linear gradient targeting the upper part of the trees. And here let's just decrease the shadows first to not lose, yeah, too much contrast, and now increase the blacks to make them a little bit more soft. And I feel like it's a good effect for the upper part. So the lower part has some darker background behind it, so it's fine if they appear a little bit darker. But for those parts of the tree that are right in front of the sky, I want to have them a little bit softer and, yeah, maybe washed out. Right, now let's bring some contrast to the foreground. And let's just use a linear gradient. Nice big one, not that big maybe. And here let's decrease the blacks. So making sure that objects or shadows that are closer to the camera are deeper. And that's a natural behavior of contrast. So the further you look into the distance, the more hazier it gets and the less contrast objects have. So yeah, we just make sure that we respect this natural behavior of contrast by bringing down the blacks in the foreground. And also helping with this effect is increasing the texture. Closer objects appear sharper, and increase the clarity as well, again for some contrast. Okay, next I want to introduce some glowing effect behind those two trees and in front of the tree line here. So everything that is, let's call it, in the far background. And yeah, this will be a little bit tricky. So let's start with the radial gradient. And yeah, it's okay if they overlap a little bit with the foreground, or with the, yeah, closer foreground, I should say. But I want this mask to be behind those trees. So let's subtract another select objects mask. Let's target those trees again. And as before, with the object selection mask, Lightroom is actually including in the selection the sky. So that's why we lost the sky here. So now it gets a little bit messy. Let's add the sky. Now we added the whole sky. And now let's subtract a linear gradient. And now we are getting close to the intended selection. So now we are only targeting the area behind the trees. And yes, actually, let's add a brush and make sure to have low flow, low density, and just, yes, just I want to include some of those parts. Let's see. Yeah, this is fine. All right. Here I want to increase the blacks, so this helps with the glowing effect. Let's also increase the temperature a tiny bit. And now let's go down to those three sliders: texture, clarity, dehaze. Let's actually increase the texture a tiny bit. Let's decrease clarity for more softness in those parts, and let's introduce more haze to it by reducing dehaze. As you can see, yeah, this gets really hazy right now, so somewhere around here looks nice. So let's have a look at it before and after. And yeah, it looks quite nice actually. Okay, now I also want to have some glow that is coming directly from the sun. So let's use another radial gradient. Again, this will help with this warm, calm and peaceful feeling to it. So just drop a radial gradient. Now I want the mask to overlap with the trees. And here again, let's bring down dehaze. Let's bring down clarity, make it softer. Now let's also go up and actually increase the exposure a tiny bit. So this glow is coming directly from the sun. And again, we want to increase the blacks. And yeah, let's have a look at the before and after. So this is before, this is after, and yeah, it has a really nice effect to it. Okay, now I want to target the highlights in the foreground. So the highlights are basically where those flowers are. So this yeah, heather, I guess it is. So let's just drop another linear gradient somewhere around here. And let's increase the highlights. So this gives a little bit more glow, as you can see. And actually, yeah, I think like this is already pretty nice. We could also decrease the blacks so that we maintain some contrast there. And let's increase the tint to make those colors a little bit more purple or magenta. Really helps to bring out those colors. Okay, now let's actually go back to the tree selection and let's make them a little bit softer by decreasing the clarity. So going all the way down, you can see it's now they're too soft. But yeah, I just want them to appear a little bit softer. So let's decrease the clarity even more. All right. Okay, this looks already pretty nice. Let's just use a final mask and let's see what a vignetting effect does. So big, nice radial gradient. Let's invert that and just decrease the exposure a tiny bit. Okay, so this is before the vignetting effect and this is after. And yeah, it looks quite nice. Let's actually also decrease the saturation a bit and bring down the temperature. Let's see, maybe a little bit too extreme. Nip and tuck. Oftentimes it's nip and tuck. Okay, I feel like I need a little bit more brightness in the sky. So let's again use a select sky mask. And let's actually intersect that with a radial gradient. So a little bit more brightness coming directly from the sun. And let's just increase the highlights. Let's see where the shadow, the highlight clipping is so very minor still. So let's go a little bit further. All right, let's bring a little bit more temperature to it and also a little bit more saturation. Yeah, I feel like this was an important change. Okay, now let's have a look at the before and after. So let's compare with our base image. Let me just close the masking section here. All right, so this is before, this is after. It's already getting very close towards the intended vision of having this nice, warm and peaceful image. Okay. Now let's bring a little bit more magenta towards the darker parts of the image. So let's go to the calibration and just slightly increase the tint. Ooh, it's very minor adjustment here. As you can see, before and after, it just brings more of this purple color towards our foreground. Nice. Okay, now let's go to the color mixer and let's go to the point color. Now I really want to target those, those heather flowers here. So let's just pick this dropper here and pick this color. Looks good to me. Now let's shift that a little bit more towards, yes, I would say purple. Let's increase the saturation a tiny bit. That was a little bit too much maybe. Let's also increase the luminance. Yes, very nice. Let's have a look. So let's zoom out again. So this is before and this is after. And yeah, so the effect is very nice and we can see now those colors really start to pop in the foreground and this is exactly what we want. So bringing out those purple colors of the heather flower. All right, let's go to the mixer now, to the color mixer. And let's work the color palette a little bit. So first of all, let's go to the reds. And The reds are mainly happening in the foreground as well, so let's bring them towards magenta. The orange is mainly in the sky and the far background, so let's bring that a little bit more towards the red. Let's also bring down the yellows a tiny bit. So as you can see, this also makes those highlights a little bit more red. Now for the greens, let's see. I don't want those lush, or yeah, maybe I should say turquoise greens in the trees. So let's just bring that down towards the yellow. Now aqua, I don't think there are any aqua colors. Oh, there are in the sky, but I don't want to change it because we really can see the edge here. So going all the way up, you can see now we have this weird purple line here. Bringing it down, now it gets a little bit green, or yeah, even some kind of rainbow color. It goes all the way, it's like an arc. So let's just not do that. For the blues, let's see. Yeah, same thing actually. So if I go up, then you can also see this arc here that is forming. So let's see if I can bring them a little bit more towards aqua. Yeah, I think it's going to smoothen that out a little bit. All right, purple. Yeah, we leave purple as it is. We want purple colors. And let's bring the magenta also more towards purple. And this should help with the heather. Now for the saturation, let's increase the saturation of the reds and also of the oranges. I don't want to target the yellow because they are already pretty saturated, so just leave them as they are. I want to decrease the greens in the image, so let's bring that down. Same goes for aqua. And I also want to decrease the blues quite a bit actually. We're going to reintroduce some blues with the split toning, so yeah, we're good here. The purple, yeah, I want to increase them a tiny bit, and the magenta as well. All right, now for the luminance, let's also bring up the luminance of the reds. Let's see, yeah, so mainly the flowers in the foreground, just a tiny bit. Orange, why not? So the far background can also be a little bit brighter, looks nice. Yellow, I think it's already pretty bright, the image, so yeah, not a real change here. I don't want to change the greens. The aqua, let's bring it up to help with more luminance in the in the parts of the sky that are furthest from the sun. So let's do the same thing with the blues, and also increase the purple a tiny bit and the magenta. Again, bringing out more of those colors here or make them more visible. So this is the before and this is the after of applying our changes to the color palette, and we really can see now those purple colors here in the foreground. So yeah, it looks pretty nice. And we're almost done. So let's go to the color grading as well. And now, as I said, let's bring a more blue tone to the shadows. So just a very tiny adjustment. And for the midtones, let's see where they are. Okay, I think like they can benefit from maybe a slight increase. Something like that. And I actually don't want to introduce more temperature to the highlights. So no, I think they're good as they are. Maybe just a tiny bit. All right, so before and after. Nice, and we are done. So let's have a look at the raw file. So this is the original version and the base image from which we started. It's lacking all those nice colors and the brightness, the warmth and the glow for some calmness. And this is the final edit, and I'm really happy with it. So I felt that we got close or very close to the vision that I had for the image. I'm very happy with the final result, and yeah, if you followed along, then let me know in the comments how it worked out for you. And if you like this video, then give it a thumbs up. And if you want, you can also subscribe to the channel. There's more content like this. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope I see you in the next video.